Greetings and welcome to the Prime Directive. I'm your host Jefficho, my co-host is always Chris. Say hi, Chris.
Hello.
Also joining us is Sean. Have we given you a rank yet, Sean?
No, probably not.
I think we should do Counselor. Today we're going to be discussing the Discovery trailer, breaking things down, giving our theories. So Chris, let's start out by clearing up some of the confusion that I'm hearing a lot over Discovery.
Yeah, we've heard some reports still that this is going to be an anthology series, which is from a rumor that got cleared up almost a year ago. Brian Fuller explicitly stated last summer that this was not going to be anthology.
Despite the fact they fired him, and now it's going to be 15 episodes as opposed to 13?
Yeah.
Well, CBS changes a lot of things. I recently exchanged a bunch of Twitter messages with David Mack, the author of Desperate Hours, the new Discovery novel, and he says that their plan is to premiere it a couple weeks after the premiere of Discovery, which, you know, he tried to console me about. Which is nice of him. So guys, let's dive into the Discovery trailer, and then we'll cover specific parts. But overall, I thought it was pretty cool. It didn't show the Discovery at all.
No. Yeah.
But I think everything we're seeing is going to just be from the two-parter pilot.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe assumption. Just as general observations, we're definitely borrowing a lot from the aesthetic of the new J.J. Abrams Kelvin timeline movies.
Oh, yeah, tell me about it.
Well, I don't think that's too bad of a decision. I mean, the movies, say what you will, certainly look great. You know, they're very visually pleasing films. But I think it is a bit odd because they're leaning so heavily on an aesthetic established by a property that they don't even have the license to. You know, you think they'd almost want to go in a different direction with it.
But did you notice every shot inside the Shenzhou had a lens flare? Every shot.
Everyone.
There might have been one or two that didn't.
You know.
No, yeah, but there were one or two that had 5.
Yeah.
You and your math.
Mathematically,
The average frame.
Okay, there was a few.
Chris, if you could drop a chart for us, mathematically there was way too many lens flares in this. Way too many.
Okay.
Even JJ's wife in The Second Into Darkness was like, you put too many in there, sir. Too many.
Yeah.
She called her husband sir. That's true.
So it definitely seems like they're going for the action, like you were saying,
Yeah, they want
Abrams, as opposed to we're gonna all learn about.
They want to be
life lessons
cinematic
Right.
and like, this is a movie, but it's on TV, guys.
Right.
So pay us so that you can subscribe to CBS All Access.
How very Starfleet of them.
Yeah. So moving on to the uniforms, I mean, these aren't the TOS ones, clearly. I don't think we're ever going to transition into them on the show. But, I mean, everything's going to get updated now. Like, it's 2017, so we're going to have fancier uniforms. I think they look pretty sharp. I totally want one. I'd get the silver one, because I think the gold and the bronze kind of blend too much together, so you can't really tell the difference in ranking, but I guess they can't go red yet.
Yeah, I think there definitely are a lot of purists that are upset that, given that we're doing a prequel, we aren't having these officers running around in these sweaters or pajamas or just whatever you want to call the original series or the cage-style uniforms.
Maybe they'll put it on when they go down on a planet. They look awfully warm.
Oh, yeah, that is true. They could be more of an away mission kind of gear. But, I mean, they look snappy. They're, you know, you're right, they don't really fit in with the TOS kind of aesthetic, but they're a pretty reasonable evolution of, I think, the Enterprise jumpsuit. And the only big issue I take with them so far is, I believe, the only rank insignia we're getting are on the little comm badges. And I think that's going to be pretty hard to see just from a distance on screen. You know, you're not going to be able to tell at a glance who's who.
Yeah.
I like them a lot too. They're pretty sharp, like you were saying, but they look kind of dressy. You know, like what are they going to wear for formal wear?
Ooh, yeah. I actually would like to see the dress uniform version of these.
So what did you guys think of the desert outfit that everybody was pooping on? And like even I myself is just like, that kind of looks like Rey's outfit from Star Wars because it's all the ropes, they got the goggles. I mean, there is comparisons to be made.
Yeah, it's really hard to avoid the comparison to a recent hit movie in a rival franchise. But it's also not that far off from other desert wear that we've seen in Star Trek. I think we've seen Ezri in DS9 with some desert robes, and there were a couple scenes in Enterprise on Vulcan, I believe.
I gotta say, T'Pol's desert outfit is probably my favorite. You know,
why is that, Jeff?
Well, she comes from Vulcan, so this is like, I come from a perfectly logical base for this, but she comes from Vulcan. So she's used to the heat, so she's got this slim-fitting thing so that she can breathe and keep in moisture, almost kind of like Dune.
But where in Dune they were designed for functionality, as it recycled the body's water through a filtration system, T'Pol's offers a more pleasing aesthetic. And while I'll
catch up with you later, Captain.
Sorry, what was I saying?
I think Picard wore something similar.
I think
Next
Picard
Gen
just
2.
put his uniform on his head. Him and Wesley trekked through the desert with that guy.
We're gonna keep going for those mountains. No matter what is waiting for us.
Well, Chris, let's move on to technology. I mean, everything does look sharper, everything looks prettier in this, but you gotta imagine, like, you know, it's 2017, some of the technology we have is above what they have in TOS.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest compliments I gotta say to Star Trek was they were inventing this shit, or rather imagining it, before we invented it.
Yeah. We got things like automatic doors, and cell phones are commonly credited as being at least inspired by people watching Star Trek. Certainly something that was predicted. Again, we have a lot of purists and detractors naysaying us for not looking exactly like TOS and having paper cutouts and all these physical buttons. And
The consoles at least do have some buttons in it. I mean, the communicator still looks like an original TOS kind of communicator.
yeah, I quite liked the shot on the communicator. That looked great.
Also, Chris, we got the holographic representation of Spock's daddy. Did that technology exist back then?
No!
I recall only seeing it in DS9.
And they barely got it to work then. Like, wow.
Yeah, it was struggling to work.
I was pressing buttons and it kind of works.
Yeah. So, what do you think of the ship itself?
It does not fit at all. It looks way too advanced. Like, it would blow the original Enterprise out of the wall. Both Enterprises out of the wall.
There were a lot of theories that they were saying it was like from the 24th century, we're getting a ship that traveled back in time, but I think the trailer pretty much said no.
Yeah, I can't see them doing that. Again, yeah, certainly they do have to update the look in some way. I think they've certainly taken it pretty far, but as long as they keep the general design qualities of the original series, it doesn't matter too much if things are more shiny or more chrome or more polished and don't look like they were made on a shoestring budget TV show from the 60s. You know, they can update it visually and do a higher quality job while keeping a lot of the design principles the same. So there have been a couple issues pointed out by various people about the timeline here and the continuity. Jeff, what are we looking at with that?
Well, they like to state that this happened before Enterprise, before Kirk and Spock.
Yeah.
But technically, Robert April had the Enterprise for like a 5-year mission, and then Pike had it for 2 5-year missions, so the Enterprise was already around. Spock was the science officer on the Enterprise, so that already happened too. So really, what they should have just said was this is before the original series.
Let's talk about the Klingons. Chris, what do you have?
Oh boy. Okay, so I think a lot of us are still holding out hope for getting some explanation for this, like their ancient Klingons is, I think, still the leading theory, or some other subspecies, or just something that this isn't yet another redesign of the iconic Klingon species.
Yeah, they could have even undergone some gene therapy to fix what happened in the Enterprise.
Yeah, yeah.
I think like the Klingon version of the Remans, maybe they're like Chris was saying, another subgroup that maybe disappears after the series or something.
One of the reasons I think this might be the case is that I think these new Klingons look more like monsters than people. You know, they sort of look like a beast or something, and I think it's going to be difficult given how major of a role we know that Klingons are going to be playing in this series, for us to empathize with these Klingons and you know, have them on screen a lot and have them be expressive.
Why do we need to empathize with them?
Well, if they're going to be the antagonists, or if they're going to be, you know, working with us, we're going to want to be able to understand them and know their stories. And, you know, the reason bad guys like Gul Dukat work so well is because, you know, they're fantastic actors and they're expressive and we can sympathize with them a little bit. And from what I've seen of these Klingons so far, they just look like, you know, monsters. They just look like bad guys.
So maybe that's the point. They want them just to be monsters.
You don't go casting people to be the mentor and the leader if you're not going to have some hierarchy and some character development there. Like, that's probably going to be the separate Klingons. When I saw Klingons on the radars, Captain, like, that's probably the Klingon fleet coming in to deal with these fuckers. I really do hope this is a separate race, because then they can be the actual villains of the Klingon Empire. So moving on to the cast, I mean, they didn't list her on the IMDb at all, but Emily Coots, as I had previously stated, is actually in there at the helm.
Yep.
Also, what do we think of Sonequa Martin Green's character?
It looks like she was raised on Vulcan. I think that's what we're supposed to get out of this. We see what appears to be Sarek talking to a young girl, which we're given to understand is her character, telling her she's never going to be able to speak Vulcan. So I'm really wondering how that's going to end up impacting and informing her character. Is she going to be, you know, a bit more of a logical person?
She looks like she calls him a lot.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like a relationship there. Maybe Sarah got a bit busy on Earth.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if we're going to see her story interact with Spock's in any way.
Yeah, could bring Zachary Quinto on.
Oh, that would be confusing, but yeah.
Yeah.
He did American Horror Story. He could show up on more TV.
There's no way his contract allows him to play Spock in a completely different thing.
Oh, we're gonna get something. We're gonna get a few actors that pop in from other things. I'm looking forward to Jeffrey Combs' appearance.
Oh, yeah, what's the over-under on Jeffrey Combs' Aliens?
Oh, he's probably one of the Klingons we just didn't notice.
Well done, Captain. You've all done quite nicely. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to inspect the wreckage.
That was for questioning our loyalty.
So I like Doug Jones. He's in this.
Everybody likes Doug Jones.
Everybody.
Can you really be biologically determined, though, to sense death, like, as your sole purpose?
Oh, man. I feel like that would probably be more useful in a tricorder rather than a person. But still, I'm enjoying how we're getting a more metal look at Counselor Troy here. You know, instead of, oh, Captain, I'm sensing hostility from the Romulans. You know, Doug's going to be looking at the Captain and going, Captain, I sense death.
Because they're never mentioned again, maybe his whole species dies, which would be ironic. I did not see this coming, and that's the end.
So yeah, from the trailer, I'd say everybody's issue is going to be how advanced this whole thing looks. But in the end, are we going to get Star Trek, where it's got the philosophy and the exploration and discovery?
Yeah.
If anybody knows what event that this is based around, because they had said that this is about an event that we hadn't seen but we had heard about. I'm not too sure which it is. I'm trying to look at the star dates and figure it out, but I'm not too sure. So if anybody knows, please comment below what the event this is. But yeah, I'm kind of curious what they're discovering. But this should be a Star Trek series. If you tell a good story and you got good characters, it shouldn't matter if things look a little too fancy, if things are a little out of the continuity a bit.
Yeah, I can absolutely let a little bit of retconning, a little bit of fudging the timeline go. That is not the first time we've done this. Even with, you know, TOS to TNG, even with that era to Enterprise, you know, this is the kind of thing we have done before. And as long as we're getting a quality Star Trek story, and quality actors and quality writing, then, you know, I'm looking forward to this.
Looks like it's going to be much more of an action-based show, at least from what I've been seeing. So, I mean, we'll see what we find out, I guess.
I mean, Fuller said they were going back to their roots, and that's why Discovery was the name for this, because it's just like, oh, we want to be about exploration. Well, I mean, there was a lot of action in that little pilot-like trailer we got, so...
They fired Fuller.
Yeah. Yeah, everything Fuller told us is now gone.
Unlike Starfleet, CBS fires first.
So guys, we finally got the Discovery trailer, and I was pretty pleased with it. This was our review for it. Chris, why don't you lead us up?
Jeff, my people were biologically determined for one reason. One reason only.
Just one?
To sense likes and subscriptions.
Oh, it could have been worse.
I sense them coming now.
Thanks for watching. I'm just saying though, if Kirk was given his first command and they're like, hey, do you want the Discovery or the Enterprise? What's he gonna pick?
I'm pretty sure Kirk is gonna pick the Enterprise because he doesn't want a ship that looks terrible from certain angles.
Ooh, yeah. Enterprise pretty from every angle.
Kirk's the galactic hustler, you know, he's picking up all the women and everything, so obviously he was going by aesthetics for the Enterprise. Because he's like,
oh my god, yeah, can you imagine, you're on the planet trying to pick up some green chick, and you're like, hey babe, check out my starship in orbit up there. Triangle.
Triangle meets Turgle. Like, Kirk would not have gotten as much action.